Welcome back, everyone.
What are we looking at today?
Well, this time it's all about horror. Specifically, we're diving into Slitterhead, an upcoming game that's already generating a ton of buzz, and we'll be looking at 12 other games that share some of its DNA.
Sounds like fun.
So Slitterhead drops on November 8th, 2024.
Okay, not too long to wait then.
Right. It's set in this rundown city, Kowlong, in the 90s, and you're battling these nasty creatures called, well, Slitterheads.
And what makes this one special, aside from the charming name?
You can actually possess different characters to fight them.
Oh, that's interesting. Like swap between different bodies.
Exactly. Each character has different abilities, which could really change up the gameplay.
Yeah, I can see that. One character might be good at sneaking around, another might be more of a brawler.
And think about the story implications, too. Experiencing things from different perspectives could make the narrative really complex.
Oh, for sure. It could even blur the lines between good and evil, depending on who you're controlling at the time.
It's like living multiple lives, but, with a lot more horror thrown in.
Multiple nightmares, maybe.
Right. Okay, so let's move into our first group of games. We'll start with Unknown 9, Awakening.
Lay it on me.
You play as Haruna, who can access this other dimension called the Fold.
Okay, a hidden world. That's always creepy.
Yeah, and it gives her special powers that she uses to fight some shadowy organization that's up to no good.
Right. Classic good versus evil, but with a cool twist.
Exactly, and I think it connects to Slitterhead because they both play with this idea of identity.
Ah, I see. Like in Slitterhead, you're literally jumping between bodies, while in Unknown 9, your sense of self might be challenged by what you find in this other dimension.
That's it. What happens when your definition of you starts to break down?
Big questions. And I think our next game tackles those head on. redruM.
I've heard of this one. It's all about murder and madness, right?
That's putting it mildly. But what really makes redruM stand out is that your choices have consequences.
Like a really twisted choose-your-own-adventure.
Exactly. Every decision could bring you closer to the truth or send you spiraling deeper into nightmare. It's not just about jump scares, it's about the weight of your choices.
It becomes a reflection of you, doesn't it? How far would you go? What lines would you cross?
Right. Would you sacrifice someone else to ensure your own survival?
Ooh, tough question. Now let's switch gears a bit. Ready for some creature features.
Always up for some monster mayhem.
Zoochosis is, well, imagine a zoo where all the animals have turned into monsters.
Oh, that's just my average trip to the zoo.
Kidding.
But yeah, that's a classic horror setup.
Right, you're trapped in this chaotic zoo trying not to become dinner.
So classic survival horror.
Yeah.
Running, hiding, scavenging.
Yeah, but there's also a mystery to solve. You need to figure out what caused these animals to transform in the first place.
Okay, so it's not just about surviving the night. There's a deeper story there. I like that.
Right. Now, for something a little more cosmic, let's talk about the Chant.
Ooh, cosmic horror. That can be really unsettling. What's the premise?
Imagine you're on this spiritual retreat. You're expecting peace and tranquility.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, well, it goes horribly wrong. You end up fighting dark entities while trying to keep your sanity intact.
So it's more about psychological horror than like jump scares and gore?
Exactly. It plays on those fears of the unknown, the things we can't understand.
It's a whole different kind of dread, isn't it? Like Zoochosis is intense and in your face, but the Chant is more about that slow, creeping fear that gets under your skin.
It's like choosing your poison. Do you prefer the visceral horror of mutated beasts or the psychological torment of cosmic entities?
Both have their appeal, I guess. It depends on what kind of nightmare you're looking for.
Which kind of horror gets to you more?
Honestly, I'm not sure I want to find out.
Fair enough. Okay, let's say you're not into all the fighting. What if you just want to run and hide? We've got some games for you too, starting with Beyond Hanwell.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's an open-world game where you're exploring this creepy town that's full of supernatural events.
So it's more about exploration and atmosphere than, say, combat.
Yeah. You're trying to piece together what happened in this town while avoiding, well, becoming another victim.
I bet that makes you feel really vulnerable, right? Like you're not some superpowered hero, just an ordinary person trying to survive.
Exactly. And you know how in those horror movies, the characters always make dumb decisions?
Oh yeah, like, don't go in the basement!
Beyond Hanwell kind of captures that feeling. You're constantly making choices, and any one of them could be your last.
So it's like a test of your instincts. Can you avoid the traps? Now, if you like puzzles, there's Sivi's Factory. It's basically a horror escape room.
Oh, I've heard of this one. You're trapped in this factory, and it's full of deadly contractions.
Yeah, it's less about fighting and more about using your brain to get out alive.
I like puzzle games, but I don't know if I could handle that kind of pressure. My brain would probably short-circuit. I feel you. It's interesting though, right? Both Beyond Hanwell and Sivi's Factory make you feel trapped, but in different ways. One's a big open world, the other's this claustrophobic environment.
Two sides of the same nightmare coin, I guess.
All right, enough running and hiding. Let's look at some games that let you fight back. Starting with Venatrix.
Bring on the action.
Venatrix is a dark fantasy game where you're battling all sorts of creatures from myths and legends, and you have options for how you want to fight.
Options are always good. What kind of options are we talking about?
You can go in with swords blazing, or you can be more stealthy. It depends on your playstyle.
I like that. It lets you tailor the experience to how you like to play.
For a more post-apocalyptic feel, there's Unplagued. You're fighting off hordes of infected creatures, gathering resources, building defenses. It's got a real survival vibe.
Sounds intense, so you need to be strategic about how you approach things. Can't just run in guns blazing, huh?
Exactly. Then there's the Killing Antidote. It's a first-person shooter where you're trying to find a cure for this deadly virus.
And I bet there's a conspiracy involved somewhere, right?
Of course. It wouldn't be a proper outbreak scenario without one.
So many ways to fight back against the darkness. It's interesting how these three games all approach it so differently. You've got the fantasy element in Venatrix, the strategic survival of Unplagued, and then this race against time, action-packed vibe in the Killing Antidote.
Lots of variety for those who like to take the fight to the monsters. Okay, for something completely different, let's look at The Devil is in the Details.
That title alone is creepy. What's this one about?
It's a very story-driven game with puzzle elements.
Yeah.
You're uncovering this mystery in this seemingly ordinary town, but things get really weird really fast.
I love a good mystery, especially when it's got that horror twist. It's like you're constantly on edge, trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
And for some multiplayer horror, there's Harvest Hunt. You're competing against other players for resources in this cursed land, all while battling monsters.
Oh, wow. So it's like a double threat. You've got the creatures to worry about, but then you also have to watch your back because the other players could turn on you.
It definitely adds a layer of tension, not knowing who to trust.
It makes you think, wouldn't it be easier to just face the unknown alone? But at least then you only have the monsters to worry about.
Right, but there's something about that human element, that unpredictability, that makes it even scarier. So, would you rather go solo or take your chances with other players?
Ugh, tough choice. Maybe we should play and find out.
Deal. Okay, for our last stop on this terrifying tour, we're going underground with Subterror.
Underground. That's never a good sign in a horror game.
You're exploring these dark tunnels, searching for answers about this ancient evil. It's all about exploration and resource management.
You know, Subterror kind of reminds me of Slitterhead, in a way. They both deal with these hidden worlds, these places that are just full of darkness and danger. It's like venturing into the abyss.
And they both play with that feeling of isolation, of being trapped in a hostile environment where no one can hear you scream.
It's a reminder that we're pretty vulnerable, really. One wrong step, and it's all over.
It's like these games give us a way to confront our fears in a safe environment.
Right. A controlled dose of terror.
Exactly. But what's really fascinating to me is how these games, even though they're so different, all tap into something primal, something universal.
Yeah, fear is a powerful emotion. It can paralyze you, but it can also drive you to survive.
I think that's why we're drawn to horror, even though it scares us. It's like a test. Can we handle it?
There's definitely a thrill in overcoming those challenges.
And it's not always a solitary experience either.
True. Watching someone else play a horror game can be just as scary as playing it yourself.
And talking about those games afterwards, sharing those moments of terror, it's almost like a bonding experience.
Like we face the darkness together and come out the other side.
Okay, so we've explored Slitterhead and 12 other games that share its blend of action, horror, and storytelling.
We've seen how these games tap into our fears, but they also give us a way to confront those fears and maybe even come out a little stronger on the other side.
It's been an incredible journey through all these different flavors of fear, but now we want to hear from you. Imagine you could create your own nightmare world. What would it look like?
What kind of creatures would you put in? What kind of secrets would it hold?
What would be the ultimate challenge? And most importantly, what kind of hero would you be?
Would you face the darkness alone or with a group of allies?
It's your nightmare. You get to decide. But remember, in the world of horror, nothing is ever as it seems.
And the line between reality and nightmare can be pretty thin.
So keep exploring those dark corners of your imagination and never let the fear consume you. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep those lights on.